Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Trader Merlin Show. It is your Friday trading week wrap-up. Thanks, Gary. Not really a better day today. No, I'm in the same spot. I won't break down emotionally on the show today like I did yesterday, but breakup's way hard, especially when you lose someone that you really, really care about. So yeah, it's been a tough one. It's gonna be a rough slug for me for a while. So I'll do my best to put on a smiley face and be positive and cheerful about these markets and all. But yeah, no, still in a bit of a funk. Obviously, Arthur weighs heavy. But, Arthur, you can always, like you say, just remember the good stuff and try to think of the good times. A little different than love lost in a relationship. At least I'm not as bad as the the guy at the Coldplay concert, who is now one of the most famous people in the world for cheating on his wife. At least I didn't lose my entire family in a situation like that. But yeah, it's been pretty rough. So cheers, everybody. Hope you had a decent trading week. Oh, we're going with, I know because Big Eb wants to know. Normally you save this stuff for victorious events, really great events. But this is one of those ones where you're just melancholy, depressed. You know what? I'm busting out the Blantons today. I actually killed the bottle of Blantons. Don't worry. I didn't kill the bottle of Blantons for the show, so I will still be cognizant and be able to function on this show today. So, let's dive into the trading week wrap-up. It will probably be a little bit shorter show than normal, just because I'm just really not in the mood. Anyway, the trading week wrap-up, what are we going to start off with? I'm going to start things off with, at least I would say I'm a little bit better because, the Arthur stuff is digesting, but the girlfriend piece is just, man. I've been through breakups before, but this is far and above worse than anything I've ever been in. Anyway, let's talk about Fed pressure. So we got to look at what's driving these markets and what might be catalysts for big price moves going forward. The big one on everybody's mind right now is what's going to happen between President Trump and Jerome Powell. You've already heard Member Waller say, hey, I'll take over the spot if needed, but Trump has not approached him. Now, as we go forward, there is going to be this continued pressure to either remove Powell from office or get him to resign. And if they can't get him out by the 30th, there's going to be this push to just get him to cut rates. And again, we have to look at the different data to see what that's showing. And one of the pieces that came out today, which wasn't a normal piece of data like a CPI or PPI or GDP number, but it was... sorry, I'm reading you guys' chat. That's hilarious. It was the President Trump basically saying, look, we've had 15 to 20% tariffs on Europe. We're going to bump that up to 30 or 35. That little variable, that's just tiny little thing, is one of those pieces that could push back a rate cut, unless Powell gets removed and somebody forcibly decides to cut rates. Because remember, if you have increased tariffs or more uncertainty about the future, then the likely course is to just hold on for now and not, juice these markets when you don't really know what's going to happen with regards to tariffs. So as far as markets go today, it was interesting. We did tiptoe up into all-time highs again on the S&P. You can see we drew that yellow box out yesterday, just kind of outlining the highs here, which really was the tail from July 15th. Now, as we finish today, it's really not that great of a finish. Yes, it's a spinning top, so that's important. It's a spinning top pattern forming there. However, we have the whole weekend in front of us. So ultimately, I think what we're going to do is we're going to have to wait for, obviously, Sunday night's open, see where we position ourselves. Anything can happen over the weekend, but it does look great. I just hate that it didn't close above that yellow box. The fact we closed in it and just right at the high point, is a little bit of weakness there because you would like to have seen that momentum carry through, particularly with what we saw on Wednesday and Thursday on that S&P. Now, the NASDAQ is a similar picture, although it doesn't have that same little yellow box that I drew. But again, small, condensed Friday, a little bit of hesitation there right near the top. So, not the best. Now, on the index front, let's go back to the Russell 2000. This picture isn't really that great either, right? It feels really choppy for the Russell 2000, even though the trend has been great since May. Feeling a little bit just sideways to choppy, especially with the way we sold off today there. Toby says S&P got stuck at the VWAP, the volume weighted average price. I don't look at VWAP, so it may have been stuck there, but I don't know. Volume is very light today, and that's part of the reason when you look at volume, it's kind of, at least for the Russell, let's go back to the S&P, on the future side of things, not that out of the ordinary, right? If we go to SPY, I would argue that that's kind of normal volume. So nothing here that really says, oh, there's some anomaly with regards to volume. Fridays can be quiet. Yeah, I think the economic data that we had today actually was fairly good. I'll take a peek here real quick so you guys can see that. There was building permits and housing starts, which obviously are two pretty important housing data points. Notice that both of those were better than expectations. So building permits were expected were expected to stay the same. They barely ticked up. But housing starts, which I think is a more important one, they were expecting it to jump by 30,000 homes. We actually jumped by more than that. My math skills are not off today because my brain is just not there. I'm really just sidetracked and distracted today, we shall say. So decent economic data today, and I guess this is kind of that hesitation point after a fairly nice week, right? If you look at the end of the week result for the S&P, I'll show you a weekly time frame here and go from where we closed last week to where we are today. 0.64% up. So, it's okay. 0.64 gives you about roughly a 3% month, close, a little bit less than a 3% month, which would be fantastic for, I'm sure, most people for the month of July. All right, what else do I have on here for my talk track? So Bitcoin got a little bit hurt today. I think this is a case of buy the rumor, sell the news, right? We've been talking so much about the Genius Act. It was officially signed into law today. President Trump doing a little bit of signing there, making a spectacle of it, as he should, because it's a pretty monumental bill for us going forward. If there are any questions from the audience, now's the time, right? If you want to know about Genius Act, what it represents, what it does, what the pros, what the cons are, just type it into chat, and I will gladly do my best to get you as much content there as I can. But the Genius Act is, in my mind, kind of a watershed moment for the entire financial system. It will impact everything. I don't know if you saw today. Today, Charles Schwab announced that they are going to offer cryptocurrencies to their clients. So now Charles Schwab will get in the business of Ethereum and Bitcoin and things like that. So technician JD, you haven't been here, apparently, because we talked about this quite a bit. The Genius Act simply clarifies stablecoins. It sets the rules for stablecoins inside of the United States. And the rules are going to be, if you are a part of my crypto program, you know this because I spent so much time going over this in those sessions. And my big concern with stablecoins is, yes, a stablecoin is designed to be pegged to a specific currency. In this case, let's say the US dollar. The question arises is what is the mechanics behind the scenes that allows that token to stay pegged to $1? There's algorithmic stablecoins, there's collateralized stablecoins, there's asset-backed stablecoins, right? There's all sorts of different mechanisms. But we shouldn't allow all those systems. It should go to something that's as safe as possible. That was my concern. The Genius Act says no algorithmic stablecoins, no asset-backed ones. What we're going to have is collateralized, well, I guess it is asset-backed. And when you buy a stablecoin, $1 worth, that $1 must be split up into a specific percentage. Some of it stays in cash. And the Genius Act says that cash must stay inside of a traditional U.S. financial institution, like a bank. The second portion of that, which will probably be the larger portion, we don't have the percentages yet, but let's say 25% has to stay in cash, 75% can stay in either the repo market, so it's connected directly to the Fed, which gives them liquidity. They love that. And the second part is short-term treasuries under 93 days of maturity. So this is fantastic for the government, as I mentioned, because now what happens is you are allowing them to create a buyer of treasuries. That should ultimately allow the yield on short-term treasuries to fall. I know Big Eb's going to be upset about that, but your short-term T-bills will probably start to fall. Why? Because you have a lot of extra demand. The largest treasury holder right now is Tether. Well, as soon as these rules are in place, anyone who decides to create a stablecoin will be forced to buy US dollars and treasuries. So this is kind of a win-win for the government because it'll cause the yields to go down, meaning they can borrow at a lower rate. So that, to me, is a good one. Do the coins have to be U.S.-based? Yes. Actually, no, Margaret. They don't have to be U.S.-based, but they must comply with all of the U.S. rules. So Tether, in theory, could be a part of the U.S. system. The issue with Tether stablecoin is Tether has a mix of all kinds of different assets. So Tether does have US dollars. Tether does have treasuries. But here's where Tether's in trouble. Tether has gold. Tether holds Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Tether holds corporate debt, bonds from corporations. All of that has to be taken out of Tether's inventory and converted into treasuries or US dollars, which could cause them to buy even more. Now, that needs to be done in a certain window of time. From my reading of the Genius Act, that should take 18 months. So we're literally talking to the end of next year before this all gets implemented. So it's a slow-moving process. But they don't have to be US-based. They just have to comply to all the rules. If it's under $10 billion of a stablecoin, that will be managed by each respective state that it's in. If it's over 10 billion, it will be handled by the federal agencies, So there we go. From this bill being signed, what can I do making money moving forward? How can I make money from this? So great question, Rocky. You're not going to make money buying a stablecoin, right? Because stablecoin stays at $1. There's no appreciation there. I think what this will do, first, I would actually expect the crypto markets to sell off a little bit because it's been just a ruckus couple of weeks as the expectations of this signing happen. Now, all of a sudden, the Clarity Act went through, and that now goes over to the Senate to see what they say about it. I think the way that you capitalize on this, Rocky, is you understand that the wheels are turning for digitization of monetary assets, whether that's bonds, whether that's US dollars or other currencies, commodities. Tokenization and dollarization of that will happen, and digitization. So I think what you do is you start looking out at the other crypto projects, altcoins, if you will, which is anything other than Bitcoin, and you say which one of these might prevail, which I think is going to get the biggest tailwind now, and maybe be bumped up by that Clarity Act. Now, I have not read through the Clarity Act. It's pretty kind of convoluted, but the fact that Amazon and Microsoft and Charles Schwab can all now issue stablecoins immediately opens up the crypto ecosystem. Anyone who's on the fence about crypto is like, oh yeah, sure, I'll buy a Charles Schwab stablecoin because it's Charles Schwab, it's safe. Now you're in a digital world, and it's so easy for you to go into Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, all these other projects. I think, Rocky, what it ultimately means is this is that rising tide that floats all boats. Are there stablecoins in Europe, China, and Japan? Yes, there are. There's even one called EURC, which is issued by Circle. So I commiserate with Big Eb today because Circle did not reach my strike price. Circle, unbelievably, still up at $223. There's my $120 put. That is now gone. Bye-bye. I was thinking about shorting it last week, and I have $1,000 left out of my $7,000 risk pile for this one. But this has already cost me $6,000. I may just leave this one alone. I think I will just leave this one alone. Louis says this would be good for house titles, prevent less title theft. Sure. As we go into tokenization, that will be a big piece of it. Yeah, Big Eb. And the funny part, Big Eb, is we will see Circle fall at some point. It's definitely going to tank. It's just a question of when, right? So for Rocky there, I think you just start to look at the different projects out there and look at which ones you'd like to buy into and just put some money in there. Totally, Glenn. I'm definitely squirrel-based. I'm still an emotional wreck. I'm a squirrel-based thing. I'm drinking whiskey, so yeah. It's just going to be a bad show today. We got 2 for 2. At least the sobbing won't be there on today's show. But yes, the question, Margaret, is if we have a European stablecoin like the euro, does that stablecoin have to have euros held at a European bank and European treasuries under 93 days, right? Do we get the same standardization around the world for stablecoins? That's one thing I think it's very important, right? Is that we do have standardization, just like I mentioned, Wi-Fi. If there was if there was a European Wi-Fi, an American Wi-Fi, a British Wi-Fi, and they were all different, didn't interact with each other, man, traveling would suck. But because we have this standardized protocol, we know going from one place to the other, we have the same infrastructure. I think what we will probably see is this carrying over to other countries and being a very similar process, which is you have to have that native currency held in the native bank and treasuries or short-term maturity bonds of that native country. I believe that's what will happen. We'll have to wait and see, because certainly the treasury yields in other countries can be significantly different. Jesus, what's your thoughts on MicroStrategy price action today? I sold puts on MicroStrategy, which I did not add to my list today. What do I think about it? I think it's nuts. I sold the 410s today, expiring next Friday. So I got great premium on it. What do I think of it? Obviously, it's a crazy sell-off. As long as Bitcoin keeps rising, I think that this will do much better and better and better and better. But for now, just a big one-day climactic sell-off. You have pretty significant volume here. It's one of the highest bars we've seen over the past couple weeks. So yeah, I actually sold the 410s. Remember, mine were taken away at 412.50, but I sold some 410s today, expiring next Friday, and got pretty decent premium. It was well over 1%, so I'm okay with that. We'll just let that one go. Let's see. Has the Fed coin noise been put to bed now? Yes. So one of the third bill that was passed, Big Eb, was a anti-USDC, anti-CBDC bill. So for now, and I haven't read through that one, but for now, you're going to be no central bank digital currency. Look, I am a believer that at some point we will see a fully implemented central bank digital currency. It just makes sense from a federal level. It's easier to print it. It's less less manual stuff. The people will complain a little bit, but ultimately they'll get over it. The question is, what happens if there's electrical outages, if your phone dies, how do I access my money? Those are things that we'll have to deal with in the future. But at some point, I think we will have a digital dollar backed by a CBDC that's run by the Fed or some government entity, probably the Treasury Department. But yeah, I think it's coming. So when we look at Bitcoin here, as we go into the weekend, not the best looking chart. Really, it's been 5 days, 6 days of just chop sideways, kind of nothing going on. I'm going to show you this chart over here. Take a peek at this one. So this is, I have Bitcoin shorts labeled on here, but this isn't just Bitcoin shorts. This is, in the vertical line is where current price is, but you can see on the left of it is leverage longs, and on the right of this, I believe I was Drive says, I believe I was chatting with one of your scam X accounts. Maybe there shouldn't be any scam X accounts. I block every one of them I can. Hopefully you didn't send him any money, Drive. Anyway, right at about 123 price value, 121 to 122 actually on Bitcoin, you can see there's almost $8 billion worth of leverage shorts. So this could be one of those things that if it starts to move up over the weekend and pop through here, this could be a massive liquidation and real big move up. Now that said, notice that there's a lot of people building leverage long positions. So the mountain actually looks a little bit more precarious from a leverage long position. Looks like there's a lot of buyers out here that are using leverage longs. That's down to about 116. 115 is your huge spike here. So something to keep an eye on as we go into the weekend. I don't know how dangerous that is, but once those things get liquidated, it could move very, very quickly. Margaret says, where do these shorts exist? Those are on DeFi exchanges. So they're going through either a DeFi exchange or a centralized exchange like Binance. So a lot of the international exchanges, you can see up here at the top, it says Binance, OKX, Bybit. Those are kind of your three major centralized exchanges outside of the US. Yes, there is a Binance.us, but its volume is so pathetic no one even uses it. So you have Binance.com is what they're referencing here. So these are exchanges which give some people, 1,000 to 1 longs or 1,000 to 1 leverage. It's insane. So that's where these ones are residing. The big bulk of them is on Binance, OKX, and Bybit. Those are international exchanges, so you and I can't access that. But yeah, those are the leverage positions. And all in all, I think it does add a tremendous amount of uncertainty and volatility to these equity markets, and we shall see to the crypto markets. Man, I am a complete and utter mess. My brain is just not functioning today. Cheers to that. Hopefully I can right this ship by the weekend, man. This has been rough. Once legit banks start allowing for Bitcoin, I may stop using cold storage. I don't know about that, JB. Do you really want to keep your Bitcoin at Chase? You want to keep your Bitcoin at Wells Fargo? I don't think you do. I think you need to keep it on cold storage. Keep that in your custody. Again, when you keep your money in a bank, you keep cash in, let's say, Chase, they leverage that out, fractional reserve lending. And I do believe, it's my contention, and I will stick by this until I'm proven wrong, that crypto exchanges like Binance, OKX, Bybit, Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken are using fractional reserve lending, which in theory makes it appear that there's much more Bitcoin than there actually is. And I hope that that's not. Margaret says, I'm surprised the NYSE is letting the crypto trading volume get away from them. At least the CME is in the crypto game. Yeah, really, if you think about who's losing out on all of the crypto craze, it's NYSE. But remember, the Nasdaq's always the tech leader. Nasdaq always has technology and things like that New York Stock Exchange generally doesn't get. And maybe the old guard at NYSE is just like, no, that's too much for us now. We don't want that. But they're definitely missing the boat. I definitely think they're missing the boat. And remember where your 20-forward seed phrase is, correct? Yes. Never forget where your 20-forward seed phrase is. Always protect that to the best of your ability. And you don't want to lose that. For those of you who are new to crypto, you have two choices. You can keep your crypto on an exchange. They have the private keys. It's their crypto, and you have to trust them. And it's just easier to do, way easier to do. On the other side, as Big Ed points out, you can go buy yourself a cold storage device like a Ledger, which I've shown many times over here. And you can take that device. It gives you a piece of paper that has 24 words on it, and that is your access to it. You now have total ownership of that cryptocurrency. No one else. So if you lose that piece of paper with your 24-word seed phrase, it's gone forever. So it's a matter of, are you organized? Are you structured? Are you disciplined? It's nerve-wracking until you get the last word in there and hit process. It's nerve-wracking until you actually you can see that you access all your crypto, right? Even sending crypto transactions can be stressful. I remember a live class I sent over $100,000 worth of Ethereum, and my palms were sweaty. It just took forever to go. So, for those of you who are getting new to crypto and kind of getting your feet wet and want to learn more, obviously Trading Academy has a class that I teach there. So, and you can never change the seed phrase like a password. Correct. The seed phrase is basically encryption. So when you input all those seeds, it creates a string of characters, and it will always be the same. So when you use the same 24 words, it's always the same access, and that access opens up a whole portfolio of different accounts. Dwight says, I've been seeing articles where people are getting physically assaulted for the crypto. It's funny. When I was in Vegas, I was on stage and I had 300 people in the room, and it might have been more than that. And I was like, how many people right now have, over $1 million on their neck? And they're kind of looking around, and I just held this up and said, I do. And I thought about it for a second, man, that was stupid to say, because someone could have abducted me. It would have been very difficult for them to get the private keys. I would have to literally wait until Monday, till financial institutions opened up, because I have part of my seed phrase in safe deposit box. I have part in other locations that are very strategic. So it would be challenging for those individuals to hold me ransom. But yeah, you really shouldn't say how much crypto you have. Just say I have crypto, right? That's it. JBG says, I'm in crypto today and had a much higher pulse. Yeah. What's funny, in that transaction I was mentioning, I sent $15 worth of Ethereum. You should always send a small amount first just to make sure you did it correctly. And that took me about, a minute for the transaction to go through. The next one for the big 100,000 plus took over an hour, and that was really, really stressful. Really stressful, man. Freaked me out. There was questions yesterday on which cryptocurrencies are kind of being quote unquote grandfathered in. Well, the rule is in kind of the Clarity Act, there's going to be this description of something that's mature, and it may not be required to fulfill the new regulations. It can kind of get around that. And here is what I pulled. So the question was, well, which cryptocurrencies are the ones that kind of are quote unquote mature? Bitcoin, likely mature. Fully decentralized proof of work, fair distribution, no central control. So we know Bitcoin's clear. Ethereum, likely mature. Decentralized proof of stake with broad development and public token distribution. So from that clarity there, Bitcoin and Ethereum are in the clear. Cardano, likely mature. Public proof of stake with diverse validators, no single holder over 20%. They're also likely mature. Now, there's a bunch of different ones that are not mature, and they're red flags. And the reason you want to know this is when that Clarity Act goes through, these and others that don't fit the mature are going to have to jump through some hoops to be allowed. Now, you see, let's go to the ones people love. Let's go to XRP. Not mature. I'm going to look at the camera as I say this, and I can say it over and over and over again, and people just keep disagreeing with me. Ripple is not a cryptocurrency. Ripple is a company that operates a digital ledger, right? So they're selling digital money, just like Western Union is a digital money transmitter. Ripple is a digital money transmitter. They have billions of dollars of lobbyists, but they are not a cryptocurrency. They are not decentralized. And if you look at why the government has said no, it's because Ripple controls a large portion of supply and influences consensus. That means that they are the ones who control it. So they're out. You look at Solana, not mature yet. Insider heavy supply and core development centralized under Solana Foundation. They're trying to push that to more diversified, but right now Solana, no. I saw Atticus says, what about Doge? It says borderline. Decentralized control, but high token concentration in a few wallets. So you've got a few whales. They don't like that. Tron, not mature. Founder-dominated governments and high insider ownership. I did not see Polkadot on this list. Polkadot is fairly distributed. I think Polkadot would be the likely mature. Very close. But the problem with Polkadot, Big Eb, is, again, no marketing team. It feels like Polkadot is just not pushing for people to use it. They've created a great product, but no. VB Met says Monero. Look, Monero, I love Monero. I think what they're doing is fantastic. However, Monero is a privacy coin, which means that Monero is probably going to get shut down first. For that reason, I sold all of mine. You can see the line here, $330. I sold back here on, where's my exact day? May 10th, I sold all of my Monero. And yes, I know what some of you are thinking. You're like, Monero, why'd you sell to 330? It rallied all the way up to 415. That was my number. All right. So I'm out at 430. Monero is probably going to have massive problems with regulators because they're a privacy coin. It's, as Big Eb says, Monero is truly for criminals. Yeah, if you are a criminal, you are using Monero. If you're a criminal, you are using Zcash. Here's another one, Zcash. I don't get me wrong, I like the projects, but when you can move money around 100% anonymous and nobody's gonna be able to track it, it does open the door to money laundering, illegal activities, and that's where most likely that activity would take place. So I have a feeling the U.S. government will probably try to shut those down in the near-term future. All right, what else do I have here today? As far as trades go, I didn't do a lot this week. I've been very busy with what was going on up in Vegas, and of course my emotional roller coaster and just, state of depression going on. Didn't do a lot of trading, but here's some of the roundup. I did sell the UNH 275 strikes expiring next Friday, collected 290 on that one. You look at Circle, so Circle's dead. That's a loss on my part, so lost all that premium. I am long UNG, and I had calls against it, and I'd sold some more puts. Well, my puts expired worthless. That was a great one at $13.50. My calls were exercised, as you can see here on UNG. UNG closed at $15.80. Fine. My shares were taken away from me. So all in all, that UNG trade was pretty good because I was initially exercised at $15. I sold at $15.50, plus I collected 2 or 3 weeks worth of premium. So all in all, that's fine. So that's what I've got open right now. We'll see next week how it goes. Honestly, I'd like to see MicroStrategy have even bigger sell-offs going forward. I want to see bigger sell-offs in MicroStrategy so I can sell some more puts and get some great premium. I watched over the weekend. What do you say? Trader Merlin, for the first time, I watched Bitcoin last Saturday and Sunday. Over the weekends. Gotta love it over the weekends. It's moving, right? It's one of those only things that's moving is crypto. It's kind of fantastic. All right, where are we at? All right, half hour. Will you be presenting at the Money Show in Orlando? I'm trying my best. I'm waiting to hear back from Todd to get his approval on it. I've told Money Show in Orlando that I will be presenting for them. So yes, for right now, it's pretty certain I will be presenting there, but we will have to wait and see until I can get final approval. VB, where are you going to be going to Orlando if I go? Here's what you can do, VB. Email me. You see my email on the screen, tradermerlin@gmail.com. If you were to go to a Money Show event, right, what presentation would you like to see on crypto? What's one that you go, I'm going to make sure I see that one? And don't say whatever one you teach, Merlin, because I like you. I love it. That's flattering. Thank you very much. I do need the ego boost. That's great. But which one, if you're looking at this laundry list of different presenters out there, what would you do, right? What would make you go, I have to see that one? Liz asked, what my beverage choice today, because of the, I don't know, I went for the good stuff. I went for Blanton's. It's funny because this had a little bit in it. I had another bottle. I just want to get rid of this bottle. That's really the story. So Margaret says crypto futures. I don't have any thoughts on FIUSD. I've not looked at Fiserv's stablecoin. I'll have to look at that one separately, CB. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Normally I'm pretty good at being able to cover everything, but that's one I have not heard of. And by the way, there's a ton of different stablecoins out there now. What will be interesting, because of this Genius Act, it's going to be very interesting over the next 18 months to see who scrambles and shuffles, right? Even if they're a stable coin today, like Tether or USDC, they still have to go through the application process. So they go through the application process. They'll most likely make it because at least USDC is compliant already. Tether, they're going to fill out the application, but they have to clean up their act. So there's going to be a lot of major shuffling of Tether's assets. They're going to have to sell gold. They're going to have to sell Bitcoin. So you try to figure out where selling's going to come from. Tether has to sell Bitcoin, or they're not going to be able to be in the U.S. markets. But that's between now and 18 months away, so we got plenty of time for that to happen. Lee says, I'm thinking of going to Orlando this year. Let us know the dates, please. It's October, I believe 16th through 18th will be the Orlando. Let's bring up the Money Show web. Let's give them a gratuitous plug. MONEYSHOW. Money Show, and we will see all their live events. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Jim Rogers. I was lucky enough to interview that guy. I've interviewed Rick Rule. I've interviewed Jim Rogers. Haven't interviewed John Nigerian. Haven't interviewed that guy. So let's see. What do we got here? Let's go to conferences. Here's the one. It's October 16th through 18th. So this is a Money Show in Orlando, 16th through 18th. And then there's another one, December 1st. I believe I'm going to be at both of them. Yeah, they just put me in the schedule here. I don't know if they've made it to the website yet. That would be really impressive if they did. Let's see if they got me on here. Inquire now. So it doesn't give me all the information about it. But I will be at this one most likely. So yeah, email me, guys. If you're going to these sessions, and you got to do it soon because it takes them like weeks to months to get everything in the brochure. But if there's a presentation that you would like to see, George says, George. I met George and his amazing wife at the event up in Las Vegas. Fantastic couple. Thank you for the kindness and everything. You guys were absolutely fantastic. I will do my best to go to Sarasota and Orlando. Obviously, it's time and work and effort. But yeah, George was up at the Money Show this week. It's great. It's funny because when George sat, I know exactly where he sat. He sat second or third row in. And he kind of stared at me. He had this kind of serious look about him, and I thought that this guy is going to be the tough guy. This guy's going to be the one that's going to just bust my chops over different things. And no, I was watching him. He kind of went with it, and at the end, he was very, very pleased with the presentation. So I'm glad you were, George. When I make these presentations, I make them because I feel people are interested. But when you go into a room, and our first presentation that you were in was that was the paid session. There was I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people in there. I don't even know how many were in the room. When you have that type of thing, the challenge is some people in the room have never heard of crypto, and they're like, I don't know. And then you have other group in there that's super advanced, right? Which is why I kind of asked at the beginning. And the goal is to always have that room walk out with everybody from left to right going, man, I really got my value worth. And I got a lot of really positive feedback. So that made me feel really good. It was one of the brightest things there, other than meeting George and his wife and the whole Money Show team. They cheered me up a little bit. They knew I was getting crushed with my relationship stuff, and just, it was good. Check out Cocoa Beach if you haven't been. Hey, you know what? Given the way how my relationship just exploded in a ball of fire, and I probably lost the most significant person in my life in this process, maybe I'll move to Florida. I don't know. I don't know if I could do Florida. But I might, moving might be a good thing. Maybe just get out of this place altogether and start from scratch. We shall see. That's a whole nother show. We can do a show on the cost of relocating to another state. All right, so what else do I have? I think I've got pretty much everything I wanted to get covered today. We talked about my trades. Was that the petting zoo girl? I don't know what you're talking about there, John. No, I was not at a petting zoo. It's not a furry thing. Because I never focus on the individual faces when presenting to a big group. Trips me out. I like it, Big Ab. I look them dead in the eye. And it's not a power move. Because sometimes when I'm presenting, and this is why I hate doing this show. You guys know I love this show. It literally is like, it's my therapy. It's my getaway. It's my place to talk about trades, life, just be me and be honest and genuine. The challenge with this show is I'm staring directly into a tiny little round camera lens, and I have no idea what you guys are looking at, right? When I see you in a room, and I can look out and I can see George and he's falling asleep or something. I can go, hey, George, what's up, man? I'm going to ask you a question. And I now re-engage that guy. And I make that room come alive with interaction. And I tried my best. I was having some technical issues and there was wires all over the place. But normally I walk around that room and I make sure that everyone's engaged, right? And that to me, I love looking them at the eye because you can tell when they get glossy and they're like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm completely lost. I like to engage. Yeah, absolutely. You can turn your cameras. Not on this show. You can in the Discord group. I think you can turn your cameras. I enabled, I think, camera ability in the Discord group. All right. What else we got? Hold on, Tomasina. Tomasina says Florida's awesome. Florida has some awesome parts. There's definitely some messed up stuff about Florida. Just like there's some messed up stuff about California. Just like there's some messed up stuff about Texas, right? Every state has some good and bad aspects to it. But, yeah. Sunshine, I'm a big fan. So California, George is cook. No, George is good. George had a great show. And again, George, thank you for the hospitality. It was great to meet you and your wife. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. What are we at? We're at 36 minutes. A short show today. Again, I'm still traumatized, if you will. We look at what happens Monday. You've got nothing going on Monday. There's really nothing coming out for the U.S. market that's that important. You got CB leading index numbers coming out. If we go to the earnings calendar, there actually are some earnings coming out on Monday, but none of them are that major. Let me just bring that up for you guys here real quick. Yeah, none of them are that major, but we'll talk about them anyway. Let's bring up your Monday calendar here. For Monday, the 21st, 37 companies reporting earnings. Verizon Communications, I'll sort by market cap here. Verizon, you have NXP Semiconductors, Ryanair, Steel Dynamics, but really not a lot of big names. It starts later on in the week. I think it was Margaret said earlier, you look over at Wednesday. Wednesday is your hallelujah kind of day. You've got, Google and Tesla and IBM. That's going to be ServiceNow. That's a big day. That's a real big day. And I for one, I'm looking forward to it. I hate to say it. What I want to have a huge gap down in Tesla. I'd love to see Tesla crater so I can just boop, 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 load the boat, sell a giant amount of puts and buy at a discount price. I think Tesla, again, over time is going to do very, very, very well. All right. This might be one of the shortest shows I've ever done. 38 minutes. I'm going to go and finish my whiskey. I'm gonna go see George Thorogood and the Destroyers tonight. The sad part is I have 2 tickets, one for me and my girl, but I'm all alone tonight. I'll be going solo to George Thorogood to check out some music. So I hope you guys do something fun this weekend. Yeah, Juan says thanks for the short show. You know, Juan, when I first started this back in 2020, all of you know I did a show before this for almost 15 years, and that was called Power Trading Radio, which is a top 10 iTunes podcast. And when that stopped, I started this the next day, and I have never done a show. This is probably the shortest show I have ever done. And when I planned it, I'm like, it's going to be a 30-minute show. It's going to be a 30-minute show. And unfortunately, this show always transpires into more. And I think part of it is I don't go into it with an agenda. There's a couple things I want to talk about. For the most part, you guys kind of steer the questions. Big Eb's guilty. I owe Big Eb a couple beers for bets, but Big Eb owes me a couple beers for time because he always asks me a question right near the last couple minutes. It forces me to go over. I think it's part of his strategy. But yeah, there we go. I'm available for a date tonight in Berlin. I'll fly to Berlin. Now you're still talking. Could be a 50-minute show. Let's see. If you fall off the horse, get right back in. I'm trying, Mamon. I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's tough when you're as old as I am to jump back on and find something that's as appealing as what you had before. But, you got to do your best, right? So I will, I'll get there. We'll get there. Oh, and thank you very much. Yeah, cheers, everyone. I hope you had a great week. I'm really looking forward to next week. I'm hoping that I can clear my head, block some stuff out, and move forward. I know I'm a good catch. I know I'm a good person, and there's somebody out there for me that I hope would love me for who I am. So thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic remainder of the day. Have a great weekend. Do something fun. I'll see you on Monday. Cheers, everyone.